I can't wrap my head around how anyone could not be deeply passionate about the nature of consciousness, reality, and the bigger questions of who and where we truly are, how we got here, and what comes after this experience. To stop at a religious or scientific belief system and never look any further feels limiting. This should be at the very forefront of life itself. The question that every single human being, and when you look around in society and you see people whose first concern is what team their football crowd is playing this weekend, or what they're going to have for tea tonight, or what they need to get from Lidl when they do the shopping, it really beggars belief that people don't consider these bigger questions, rather bigger, about what this life is in the first place, who we are, what we're doing here. There are people that ask these big questions, but I'm not necessarily aligned with their conclusions on it. And really, I just want to have discussions that advance some of the perspectives that I've presented over the course of the previous 20 videos. But it seems more and more people are starting to ask these questions, and more people are looking at the evidence around them and using a scientific method of truth discernment and coming to similar conclusions to each other. So that's a notable shift over the course of the past 20 months or so.
Just a lot of people are, as part of the conditioning is religion. Religion has done a massive amount of mind control and behavioral modification over the years since day one. So I think since civilization formed, we've been under heavy mind control by people who wish to keep us under the thumb, keep us in a state of fear, so that we are easier to manipulate and fall in line with their agendas, right? So religion to me is the primary way of doing that. If you can get somebody's primal fear, which is what happens to us after death, why are we here, what happens if we don't align ourselves with government or state, or what happens if we go against the priest or the priestess that's running the temple, then if they can get people in that state of mind control, and it is mind control, and you can control their behaviors, the bits of this that look more like demon worship and demonology.
Maybe arming ourselves with this knowledge and this wisdom is the key to getting out of here. And those of us that don't like this place and don't particularly want to have to come back, or just want to get out of it,
right?
For us, that kind of information, if it's valid, is like gold. Because I'll take any method of getting out of this bloody madhouse and never having to come back. The gods of the Old Testament in the Bible, for example, and most other religious texts, and this is not a god, it's a usurper, it's an intruder, a pretender, it's a demon, basically. It's a arrogant, violent, psychopathic monstrosity and abomination of creation. And this entity is what we've been entrained to look up to and praise and revere as a god. I don't worship that thing, and somehow this Yaldabaoth thing was allowed to usurp this reality and create this place and put us in it. However we got here, whether we were tricked or trapped or coerced in some way, we find ourselves in it.
We're not dealing with a benevolent creative force. We are not dealing with a forgiving God. We're not dealing with a compassionate, loving God that wishes to pour out its love upon its subjects. We are dealing with something very cold, very dark, very psychopathic, and very malevolent. Be honest with yourselves, and you tell me that's setting a good example of morality and goodness. If you read through, especially the Torah, especially the first 5 books, my God, the stuff that's in there, just God commanding that his chosen people go out and slaughter masses and masses of people, women, children, animals, that he demands sacrifices, he demands, burnt offerings. Come on, that's neither good nor moral. And if that's supposed to be setting the example as to how we're supposed to live today, then good job. We've got a whole worldwide society that is ripping itself apart, whether that be through war, famine, tyranny, fraud, deception. I mean, okay, good job. If you want to use that as the example of as to how to live on this planet, you've done a great job.
The infuriating thing for me is just the fact that we find ourselves abandoned here with no road.
Does feel like that.
No guidebook. There are no clear answers. I mean, people will tell you they've got all the answers. Religious leaders and new age spiritual types will claim, oh, I've figured it out, and this is what we're doing here, and this is what this creation is. But none of us really know. And how is that of any benefit to us? If these
Right.
lives were created to enrich our souls so that we can grow and evolve, as certain people tell us, learn lessons,
Yeah.
take it back to source, pool all that knowledge that we've accumulated, uh, how does any of that work when we come in with a mind wipe? If we've had previous lives, then
Hmm.
we come
Yeah.
in with our minds wiped, so we have no memory of it. And yet we're supposed to learn cumulatively. And some people will say we have lives beyond these and we take that knowledge forward. How? How do you do
Yeah.
that with a mind wipe? What's the point of putting us here with no roadmap, with a million conflicting arguments? This religious leader saying my faith is the correct one, everyone else is wrong.
Yeah.
The very next person saying, no, no, don't listen to him. He's a charlatan. My faith is right. How are you supposed to make sense of any of that?
Well,
How
you
is any of
can't,
that
can
for
you?
our benefit?
I mean, the word religion means to bind back, right? To rebind. It's to hold you back from progress, right? It's to hold your mind in a vice-like grip, to stop you from having a healthy outlook at the rest of the world and genuinely questioning everything and seeing from a spiritual philosophical standpoint what you can make of the world. But we're taught by religion, by churches, by all these dogmatic systems of belief. No, you must believe what we tell you. If you think outside of that box, you're evil or you're a sinner or you're a wrongdoer. So don't do that. Well, that's limiting us, right? That's limiting our outlook into. I think that has held us back. I think it's held us back thousands of years because we've just not been able to escape that grip of church doctrine. Just trying to understand what this place is because again, it doesn't make sense to me. There are anomalies here. If we're supposed to learn from this, if we're supposed to be good moral people of upstanding character, if we're supposed to have peace on the earth, why bring us in with a mind wipe? Why are we not allowed to remember? If we're supposed to learn lessons, how can you do that from a perspective of, right, you've been a naughty boy, you've made 350,000 mistakes in the previous lifetime, so now you have to go back and correct all of those mistakes, but we're going to wipe your memory again, as well as everyone else's memories, and then you're going to make 350,000 more mistakes. If we did have a benevolent God, a benevolent creator that truly wanted us to be happy, right, first of all, it would show us the way. It would set us out guidelines and a roadmap. There would be something to adhere to that didn't contradict itself, that did make sense, that didn't necessarily turn you away from what felt right. If you are a moral, upstanding human being, if you stick to principle, if you know the difference between right and wrong, and believe me, folks, it's really not that difficult. When you look into it and you get an understanding of right and wrong, it's not that difficult. Does it cause an act of harm? Right. Well, yes, if it causes an act of harm, is it a deliberate act of harm? Then it's wrong, isn't it? It's that's the simple. If it's not a wrong, then it's a right. And people can't seem to get their heads around that. If we had that, if we genuinely had that, those simple understandings of right and wrong, or simple guidelines of what is acceptable and what's not, that would cut out cruelty. That would cut, I mean, people would be more charitable for one thing, right? Because they'd want to set the example. I just think at the minute humanity's gone massively, massively astray. This is the work of deceptive men. This is the work of tyrants and kings that wanted to usurp the world and have done it. And now they've got AI to take over from their, I mean, AI is now effectively the new god because it's been programmed to take over from that position.
There,
Just want to
well,
get
you
that.
mentioned there a loving God might want peace on earth and might
Mhm.
actually want there to be abundance and happiness
Yeah,
and joy. How is that ever going to be achieved when we have a natural world, the so-called food chain,
yeah,
where billions of living sentient beings murder each other in horrific, violent ways
yeah,
every single day just to stay alive another
yeah,
day? I think that state of affairs tells you everything you need to know about the true nature of whatever created this realm and its motives. Pain, suffering, and death are built into the very fabric of this reality.
yeah.
So, how can we ever expect to attain human joy, human freedom, when all that is going on and is a central part of this very
Yeah.
reality? Right? I
So
think it's
this
all
this
right
is
there in that.
well. I mean, I know you asked this question. I think you ask it of all your guests, and it's a very good question. I think
I
it's
do,
one
and
of
I
the
never get a satisfactory answer. I never get an answer that makes any kind of sense to me, other than it's the creation of a psychopath.
it's like a necessary system of suffering. Um, you
It's
know,
not necessary, though, is it? That's the point.
well,
Because so many
no,
other
no, but it,
ways, so many other ways this reality could have been
yeah,
constructed without the need for even digestive systems
yeah,
and the need to
yes,
ingest food. Why can't we just
yeah.
live on prana, air, if we're talking about a God that could have created any kind of reality it wanted,
Yeah.
there's an option. Why did it have to be this one?
Yeah. I'd
If
love
the
that.
creator had wanted that, it could have
Hmm.
had it. Because if you're
Yeah.
omniscient and omnipotent and
Yeah.
all knowing, you can create any kind of existence you
Yeah.
want. So that was an option, but that option was not chosen. The one
It
that we
doesn't
do
seem to be.
have was. And, we take in food and we have to go to the toilet and it's disgusting. It's
Yeah.
horrible. It's unsanitary. Why is it necessary? It was never
Right.
necessary.
I mean,
Why?
it's messy as well. I mean,
What kind of all-knowing, all-loving, all-seeing,
yeah.
benevolent entity would design a human body that is prone to disease? It ages,
Yeah.
it withers away and decays and dies eventually, and you have to go through all the trauma of that, watching your loved ones waste away before it happens to
Yeah.
you, and having to go to the toilet every day. None of this was necessary. None of it.
Yeah.
Think of an animal that goes to an abattoir.
Yeah.
Just think of all the
Yeah.
pain and suffering and fear that animal experiences. It will get, if we're talking about a cow, it'll get made into steaks or beef or whatever, and it will go
Yeah.
into supermarkets. Within a few days, all that animal's body would have gone through digestive systems, been shat out, gone
Yeah.
into the sewer. That animal's life is
Yeah.
worth that. That's what that animal's life amounted to in the end. Shit in a sewer. Meat
Oh,
eaters clearly don't want to give up their eating habits.
right.
They like eating meat.
Hmm.
So they will justify it in any way they can to
Yeah.
continue doing what they do because they don't want to have to change. And I think it's the same thing with these God questions.
Yeah.
It's very
Absolutely.
uncomfortable for people to even entertain the idea that this place was created by not a loving, benevolent
Yeah.
God, but a malevolent one. And it was created for suffering and all the rest of it. That's a
Yeah.
horrific prospect for many people to entertain. So
Yeah.
they come up with all kinds of ways of avoiding that question. They hide behind religious systems, they hide behind new age spiritual belief systems,
Yeah.
they do all kinds of mental gymnastics and dancing around to avoid having to face up to this very awkward question.
Yeah. Just a bit.
People just create these diversions because it's
Excuses.
too,
Uh,
yeah, they're
let's go for
excuses.
let's call it for what it is. It's excuse making, isn't it?
Right, right. Yeah.
When we're dealing with the religious mindset, the reason why people are getting angry, the reason why people get angry at your videos, it's an emotional reaction. If we were dealing with this from a purely intellectual standpoint, you could be compassionate, you could be loving about this, you could be caring. I think you've got the best of intentions doing these videos. I have the best of intentions questioning all this stuff and writing about it, as do you and many others that have been doing this for a while. But we always seem to be able to offend, and I'm sorry, Christians, you do seem to be the most offendable group. And again, that's not an attack; it's an observation. Christians are very, very offendable. The reason for that is we are attacking them in their most primal belief, right? We've questioned their most primal conditioned mindset, and it's causing an emotional reaction. Their response to you saying, right, I've read that passage in the Bible and it's evil. I've read that passage in the Bible and it's contradictory, right? Their default to that, their cognitive bias is, well, he's wrong because I must be right because I believe. Well, all right, believe what you want. I don't care what your belief and opinions are. I want to know what the truth and facts are. I want to know what the evidence shows me. I want to know. I don't know. Sorry, I don't want to care about your beliefs and your opinions. Everyone's got a belief, everyone's got an opinion, everyone's got an ideology. That doesn't make you right. That doesn't make your scriptures right. That doesn't make the religion or belief right. It just means that you have formed a bias and belief and an opinion. We've got to get past that. Stop reacting emotionally.
And I've made the observation to you that suffering seems to be a bespoke process. We seem to have our
Doesn't it just?
personally
Yeah.
designed hell, which just applies to us. And it's circumstances in our lives that other people aren't going through, but we are.
Yeah.
But the next person you speak to will be going through some shit that you're not, but they
Yeah.
are. And it's just individually tailored to them. And it seems the more you try to do the right thing, the more you try to be moral, the more you try to help others and be good and make this world a better place, the more suffering you're going to reap as a result. There's a direct, observable, measurable process there, and anyone can do it. It's an experiment that you can
Right.
go through yourself. And that's one of the things that inspired me to do that first video and start asking these
Yeah.
questions. So I want to ask you, when we think about the so-called elites of this world,
Yeah.
the psychopaths, the Satanists
Yeah.
who run everything, do you think They, as a huge group or network, have observed this dynamic, and they realize that this reality actually rewards evil. It actually rewards behavior that causes suffering to others.
Right.
And they've chosen to align themselves with that type of behavior because they've realized this gives them an easier run through life than the rest of us. We're all trying to do the right thing and be good people and suffering as a result. When you think of these fuckers, they all seem to be literally getting away with murder, getting away with
Yeah.
genocide, getting away with stripping away people's rights, destroying nature, and
En masse. Yeah.
we don't notice them going through any suffering as a result. Obviously, we
Right.
don't see what goes on behind closed doors, but they usually live to ripe old ages, that they're
Yeah.
walking around free men and women. Do you think this is because they have observed the rules of engagement in this reality and they've chosen to align themselves with suffering and they're actually being rewarded? They're being rewarded by the way this reality is constructed and the entity that constructed it for those types of behaviors because they're continuing the cycles of suffering and fear and everything that goes with it that this place was constructed to facilitate.
The ones who are genuinely going out there trying to do the very best and have the very best of intentions, they're always telling me, I just can't get a break. I can't win. I cannot, it's just constant. It's one thing after the next. Just as I climb back up again, just as I pull myself to my feet, something else comes and smacks me straight back down. I can't get a foothold, right? Was that I also know people who go through life smiling, and they've got plenty of money. They get the girlfriends and the boyfriends with ease. They don't have that issue. They get the best cars. They get nice houses. They don't have to suffer. They don't have to struggle. Sometimes I've seen good luck literally fall on them. Right? Just good fortune falls on these people. But I'm going to measure that out by saying that some of these people specifically are not good people. Some of these are very dark individuals who are very selfish, who don't give a damn about anyone but themselves, and yet good fortune seems to find them. And I've noticed that, and again, maybe that's not true in all cases, but it's true in a lot of cases. So if I could answer your question about the elites, do they know the rules? Yeah, I think they do, and I'll tell you why I think they know the rules, and I'll tell you why I think they break the rules. I think largely that if this place is the construct of a demiurge, or again, looking at it from an atheist perspective, if there is no God, and I don't believe that, but if they do, if they believe that, if that's their mindset, if that's the way that they're going out into the world, then there is no karma for them. The
And you think
satanic
becomes fair
mindset.
game for them.
Well, this is the thing. This is exactly survival of the fittest mentality, isn't it? Right? This is, and again, survival of the fittest and Satanism, as in the Church of Satan, it goes hand in hand. It's the same mindset. The idea is that they can go out and do what they want, and if nobody stops them, if nobody prevents them from doing that, if people comply with their evil diktats, with their behaviors, if people don't stop them, if they comply with it, if they put up with it, if they go along with that, then in their minds, in their eyes, it's fair game. And guess what? They're predators. These people at the top, they're usually psychopathic. They're usually very well educated. They've got money from because they're in the right family and the right blood group, or they're in the right circles, or they're in the right business circles, right? They have a satanic, psychopathic mindset. And again, a caveat, I'm not saying that all people that are higher ups are evil. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is a lot of them are. The ones that are going out there making, worldwide agendas that we all have to comply with by force because we're all slaves to these people. Those people are evil. Those people are psychopaths. And these are the very same people that I think have been well trained in the occult, well trained in psychology, well trained in religion, in politics, education, economics, sciences. They've had the full array. They've had the best education going. They've had the best mentors. And by best, I mean intelligent. I don't mean the best people. I don't mean the most moral. I don't mean the most compassionate and good. They've had all the best of everything. And they've also got a ton of money to go with it. And they know they can get away with it because their buddies who are also in that line of thinking, they're also backing them up. And then their buddies are backing them up. And then they've got their police to back them up. And then they've got the courts to back them up. They've got the politicians to back them up. I mean, that's how they're getting away with it. Yeah, I do think they know the rules of the game. I think they know more than a lot of let's say good practitioners of the occult, right? I'm not going to go down a whole occult rationale here. There's nothing wrong with the occult. The occult literally means hidden from view, right? There's a whole field of study there, and it's not evil, which we've discussed in the past. But they are very well versed in it, both dark side and the light side of that particular subject area. They know psychology. They know how to manipulate. They know how to manipulate the markets. They know how to manipulate people's behaviors and get away with it. Of course, they do. Yeah, I do think they know the rules of the game. In short, and I don't think they pay the karmic consequences because the people in general allow them to get away with it. We have stood down. Apparently, we're the 99%, right? And I don't agree with that. I think we're more like the 30 or 40% at best. At best, but we allow them to do this, which allows it to perpetuate and get worse and perpetuate and get worse. And so, in a satanic mindset, in a karmic mindset, all right, they let us get away with this, so we'll keep doing it. We'll keep doing it more. We'll do worse. We'll see what we can get away with. Does that answer the question?
Do you think it actually can be fixed? Because the title of one of my videos in
Yeah.
this series was "It's broke and it can't be fixed."
Right.
So if this realm is facilitated to reward evil and
Hmm.
oppressive behaviors towards
Yeah.
others, human slavery, and it's not that the rules of the game, the computer code, has
Hmm.
not been written to facilitate freedom and joy and
Right.
happiness. Can we actually win? That might sound like a very defeatist attitude, but think about it. If we're dealing with a reality which has been scripted and written
Hmm.
and coded in that way,
Yeah.
then maybe we can't actually throw off evil and live freely. We don't know how long this earth has been around, but it's a fucking long time. And
Oh, you
we're
agree
not
with that?
aware of any point in known human history where there's been freedom and abundance all over
Yeah.
the world. There's always war, there's always oppression, there's always poverty.
Yeah.
And it seems to be written into the very fabric of this reality that that has to be the case. So it makes me wonder, can it actually be fixed? I'm not saying we shouldn't
Right. Okay.
try. We should try.
Yes.
But I'm
Yeah.
wondering if we're just bashing our heads ultimately against a proverbial brick wall.
Right. Am I all right? Are you all right for me to go off another
Oh, you may as
spiely
well. That's
rant?
what we're here for.
Right. Okay. Right. Throughout that 6,000 years of history, in all regions of the world, what have we got? Suffering, misery, wars. My God, the wars are non-stop, right? We've got economic suffering. We've got health suffering. We've got barbarism. We've got, I can't say certain words on YouTube, so but violations. Let's go for that. Let's go for violations, theft, fraud, deception. Right? These are all causes and consequences of suffering. These are all society wide, and we can date this back right to day one. One is religion. I don't mean spirituality. I don't mean God. I don't mean morality. I mean religion, a construct, a state fabricated set of rules and doctrines that favor the few, not the many, that keep people in a state of slavery.
When you become fully aware and awake to the unbearable level and extent of the distortion, perversion, evil, and all the hellish suffering, torture, abuse, trauma, monstrous cruelty, atrocities, including the massacre of innocents, there is no explanation that could ever justify it or make it acceptable. This world and cosmos shouldn't have existed whatsoever. It has to collapse and burn down for good. Life is torture, but it seems that is only truly evident to very few minds who can honestly comprehend it without self-deception and mental anesthesia. Every pain, every suffering, every problem, it's all been repeating for thousands of years without fail, dealing with these fucking torture devices known as the flesh body. Most ignore it, shrug it off with the cliche, that's just life. No, that's not going to cut it. Absolutely unacceptable. No one willingly puts up with torture for a single 5 minutes, let alone for decades, and then be expected to keep putting up with it to the very bitter end. It's equally grotesquely absurd. Life is not good, not a gift, not the creation of a good, loving God. And those who choose to self-exit do so understandably. Fuck this place, that's how I feel about it all. Life is not a gift, it is a grotesque sentence carried out in slow motion. This guy can write, I tell you. A biological torture chamber on repeat, dressed up with fake smiles and hollow distractions so the prisoners don't claw the walls too soon. Every cycle of pain, every humiliation, every decay of the flesh is not an accident. Flesh is the perfect shackle. It rots, it bleeds, it starves,
Yeah.
it ages, and yet it traps consciousness long enough to drain it dry. People say that's just life, which is Stockholm syndrome on a cosmic scale. You wouldn't force a
Oh, I like
dog.
that.
You wouldn't force a dog to endure the cancer, dementia, and decay that humans are expected to accept. Yet here, billions march to the slaughterhouse one by one, pretending there's some meaning in their chains. There is no loving God behind this, only indifference at best, malevolence at worst. If there were a true gift, it would be the release, not another round of this carnival of agony. And the herd keeps smiling, shopping, breeding, and scrolling TikTok on their way to the abattoir. And yes, there is absolutely no good reason for this nightmare. None. The endless routines, the suffering monotony, the daily grind of suffering repeated on autopilot for decades, it all adds up to nothing but absurd cruelty. And when you look at nature itself, nothing but tearing, ripping, devouring, the eternal slaughter of life, feeding on life, it makes even less sense. If this was meant to be creation, it's the most grotesque design imaginable. What's even more maddening is the sheer depth of the brainwashing. The programming of the herd is so complete, so total, that they celebrate their own captivity and this grotesque mask of humanity. So I'll leave that one there. But he made a very good
Okay.
point that if a dog was aging and was diseased and was suffering, it's generally accepted that the kindest thing to do is to put it down, put it out
Yeah.
of its misery. Yet with humans, we don't accept that that's the kind thing to do. No, no. If you're unfortunate enough to get some debilitating illness, it might cause you intense pain and suffering for decades, 30, 40, 50
Yeah.
years. And yet the thing to do in polite society is to allow that to continue. So he's just highlighting the double standards there between how we would treat a pet and how we would treat a relative, which people in the 70s and 80s didn't.
Yeah.
So you could say they were a bit more ignorant in terms of their knowledge, but it made them happier because they didn't
Yes.
know all
Yeah.
this stuff.
This.
That's the
This.
distinction, I
Yeah.
think.
I mean, there is such a thing as blissful ignorance. I'm not promoting ignorance at all. I think ignorance is the worst thing. I think it's the original sin. I think it is the sin of sins, right? However, it does seem that ignorance is blissful because you don't have to deal with the pain of understanding and knowing what's going on. You don't have to deal with trying to figure out why the world is evil because you're not aware of it fully. You're not in that state of mind. And so the internet, if you look at it, it's a double-edged sword. Yeah, one, it's brought us together in one way, and it's certainly allowed us to get information out there to understand a lot. The daily influx of information that I have, it's a constant flow. I've always got information going in, and I love that. Sometimes it can get a bit heavy. Sometimes but mostly I'm learning constantly. It's just a constant stream of it's good. They're trying to stop that. They're trying to censor that. So if we look at the internet for the good things, information and being able to communicate like we are doing, and for that's fantastic. The downside of it is it's one hell of a tool for programming and conditioning us. It's entrapped us. That's why they call it a web. That's why it's a net, right? It's a world wide web. They've trapped us. That's the downside of the internet. That's the downside of technology. This whole smart agenda, technocratic infrastructure. And I think that is also dragging us down into a negative outlook, into a negative perception, because it's bombarding us constantly, right? We are constantly being hammered by darkness, by negativity, by evil, by suffering, by doom mongering, and people are doing this themselves. I know I've got plenty of friends who sit on the phone all day, doom, 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 and then they're depressed. Well, of course you're depressed. Put your phone down. Go out there and walk in the streets. Go and have a walk. Go and meet somebody and have a discussion with them. Connect again. If you're just going to sit there and remind yourself as to how bad things are, guess what? You're going to get depressed. You're going to get anxious, and life's not going to be very pretty. If that thing in your hand is dragging you down, put it down.
From. Right, so I've got some more comments here, and I'm going
Please,
to
let's go
finish
for it.
on this.
Yeah.
So this is somebody else. This is a guy that I correspond with on Facebook, and he's got a bit of a more positive slant on things, I guess. So he says it's not really a soul trap; it's more of a soul trick. A trap would mean we're powerless victims locked up against our will. A trick is different. It's all about illusion, distraction, and misdirection. Like a magician's sleight of hand, it only works if we don't see through it. Once awareness cuts through the trick, the game is over. Subliminals are a good example. The subconscious mind always picks them up, but the conscious mind doesn't, and that gap is where the trick slips in. The second your conscious awareness catches it, the illusion falls apart. Reality works the same way. Nothing's truly trapping us. It only seems that way when we don't notice. Awareness is the light that exposes the trick. The subconscious already knows, but the real shift comes when the conscious awareness sees it too. When they align, the spell is broken. And this is what I talk about when I
Okay.
expose hand signals and these methods of communication that these occultists use, and subliminals and music videos and things like that. So, one final comment from this same guy. If this really is a simulation, then people assume there must be a prime reality sitting behind it. My old 3D way of thinking imagined that place as having the same kind of things we see here, like mountains, nations, roads, cities, but now I see it differently. The original field isn't another version of Earth. It's infinite awareness itself, boundless, borderless, with no countries, no maps, no division. What we call landscapes, nations, wars, and cities are just constructs inside the simulation. They're symbols, projections, not eternal realities. It could be like logging into a VR game. You put on the headset, and suddenly there are mountains, roads, and conflicts. But none of that actually exists in the living room you're sitting in. The prime reality isn't full of copies of game levels. It's the awareness of the player who exists beyond them all. So this Earth isn't mirrored somewhere else. It's a copy illusion that only exists inside the simulation. In truth, we're infinite awareness, and outside of this game, those constructs don't even exist. So I think if there's a
Yeah.
positive slant to be putting on all this stuff that we talk about, that's probably it. And I'm always happy to end on some vaguely uplifting
Yay.
outlooks. So I'm quite aligned with that. And I'm also aligned with the idea that though it can be bleak and dispiriting to look at all this information, perhaps it's the key to us getting out of here. Perhaps becoming
Yep.
aware, becoming informed, becoming wise to the way the game is played is going to be our ticket out of here, because we'll take anything we can get at this point.
Just a
All
bit.
right, well, we'll leave it there. So this was Devlin meets Lucius. So stand by for the comments. The devil and
Oh God, I
Lucifer.
know. I know.
They'll be coming. But other than that, thanks for coming on today. Great discussion, and
Thank you
see you
very
for
much.
God 21.